Hey everybody, welcome to the first edition of my Q&A show. My name is Curtis Robinson with Mike Trotter, the PT boss. I'm excited because this is my best friend. This is a guy that I looked up to for a very long time, and I consider very high on my list of people that I look up to in this fitness industry. And I'm very excited about having him first on many shows to come. The purpose of this Q&A show is to give everybody and anybody that I interview an opportunity to share their story, where they come from, what they do, what they're trying to accomplish. But now the most important part of that is why they're trying to do all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to you, Mike. Who are you and where do you come from?
Man, well, first of all, thanks for the lovely intro. You started off by saying looked up to me. I'm like, damn, that's past tense. You don't look up to me no more?
No, I still do, but it's more, I guess, counterpart. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just giving you shit. Man, who am I and what do I do? That's kind of a loaded question there. I mean, there's so much to who I am.
We have a lot to get to.
I'm Mike Trotter, aka the PT boss. I currently am the regional fitness director with Gold's Gym, and I own the personal training company there right now.
And what's the name of that personal training company?
Specialized Fitness Training is the name of the company.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I've been in the industry for about 10 years now.
Okay.
So graduated from Eureka College in 2007.
Eureka? What did you graduate in?
I graduated in Thug Life. No, I'm kidding. I graduated.
Okay.
I have an exercise science degree, and I minored in fitness leadership.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
And what did you go to Eureka for? I mean, out of all the colleges ever,
the
entire U.S., why Eureka?
That right there is a story in itself, man.
Okay.
No disrespect to Eureka. I learned so much at Eureka. Mostly how to interact with people. But I feel like most people who go to Eureka kind of end up there. It's a private college in the middle of nowhere, Illinois.
Yeah, definitely.
It's 20 minutes south of here. And how I ended up there was I went to a JUCO for 2 years to play ball.
Sure.
Right? And then...
What position did you play?
I was point guard. The point guard.
Were you good?
If you ask me, I was great. You know what I'm saying? That's the point of this.
Did you start?
Oh yeah. I started. I finised. I did my thing.
How many points per game did you average?
Depending on my last season, I probably averaged about 15.
Okay.
But I was a point guard though, so my goal, my responsibility was pretty much to set everybody else up.
Sure. What do you mean by that? By setting other people up, what does that mean?
My goal was to pretty much make sure and understand that everybody else knew where they were supposed to be, and get them in position to score. So my job was to pretty much pass the ball.
Okay, awesome. So you're the PT boss, and you've been running a company for how long now?
The company we turned it into its own company about 5 years ago.
Okay.
I think to this date. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now I want to take it all the way back. I really want to find out what led you to going to Eureka in the first place. So where are you actually? You said Chicago, but where are you actually from? And give me some details on that.
Okay, so to answer the first question, how did I end up at Eureka? I graduated from a JUCO, right? Did my 2 years there. Actually did 3 years there. I had to stay another year because I didn't have enough credits. Actually signed a letter of intent to go to a different school to play ball, but then
what school was that?
I'm just gonna leave that out for right now.
Okay.
But I signed a letter of intent to go there, and then a week before school started, I get a call saying "Yo, you could still come here, but all your credits from junior college didn't transfer. So what that means is you're gonna have to sit out for the season and get your credits, get your score right, but you won't be able to play." Okay. So in my mind, dude, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to the league. I thought I was destined to be this big basketball.
How did that make you feel about that somebody basically telling you need to take a year off and go to school? And
yeah, I was disappointed. I was disappointed. So what I did at that point was because I pretty much called every school that had offered me anything at the time, and we're talking about a week before school starts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I called every single school that offered me anything. and Eureka was legitimately the only school that returned
Wow.
my call.
Okay.
So when I went to Eureka, man, I never visited.
Yeah.
Right? Never been there, didn't know where it was. So my first day on campus was like my first day on campus.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when I walked in, I can say it was a culture shock. It was different. You know,
What do
it
you
was
mean
very
by that? I
different.
mean, say culture shock.
I mean, I'm from
It's
Chicago,
different.
so I'm
Okay.
from a big city.
Yeah.
Eureka is definitely the opposite of that.
Absolutely, and like you said, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so and it was very. The main religion there is apostolic Christian.
Okay.
So it's like you got women walking around with the long dresses and the pent up hair and the buns.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nothing wrong with that. No disrespect to anybody who is in that religion, but it was just different for me. I had never experienced that before.
Sure, awesome.
But you know what? I learned a lot of lessons at Eureka, and I met some really good people and some friends who are legitimately still my friends to this day.
That's awesome, man. And you graduated, so you went to your college, and it sounds like that was the last resort for you, and you took it and you ran with it.
Absolutely. Graduated from Eureka College in 2007.
Okay.
First one in my family to do it. And the whole time I was in college, my focus wasn't like, career. I was, even though I went to a low level college as far as basketball, in my mind,
Right.
I'm still gonna make it to the pros, So I remember sitting at graduation thinking like, damn, like what's next? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So
So what'd you do after you got out of college?
I actually went to a bunch of overseas tryouts, like overseas camps.
Okay, where at?
The one I went to was in Boston. I went to one in Indiana.
And how did those go?
In my mind, like I was always, I always thought that I did well, but I honestly knew at that moment it wasn't going to work out for me as far as basketball goes. Because like,
so what was the defining moment? Like when you were at those tryouts, I mean, what was that like? I mean, you went there and tried it out, and what was the realization that clicked in and said, "Oh no"?
What I realized going to that was that, you could be the best on your team or one of the best on your team, but when you go to those things, you're up against the guys who are also the best on their team.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you realize very quickly that their better is your better.
Okay.
Or their better is better than your better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, legitimately, guys that I was watching on TV at the time, were at the camp.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I realized very quickly I was
Who
out
did
of
you
my...
meet? So do you have any names or anything like that?
I don't really want to name drop, but guys like that played for the Hoyas. I remember there were guys that played for North Carolina.
Yeah.
Ohio State. It was a dude from Ohio State there, and Cincinnati. The big schools. And here I am. When you look at the roster from that, and I still have this
Doing
roster
the thing.
at home.
Uh-huh.
Like you got North Carolina, you got Ohio State, you got Georgetown, then you got Eureka. You know what I mean? So like, I was definitely out of my league, and I realized very quickly coming back from that, like, all right, time for Plan B.
Awesome, man. So what was Plan B?
Well, I've always had a passion for fitness. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I've always had a passion for helping people. So, and I had this exercise science degree, so I'm like, let's pursue this personal training thing.
Okay.
So I actually got hired on at a gym in Chicago, but the truth is I didn't want to work in Chicago. You know what I mean? Just because I didn't live in a very good neighborhood, so I wanted to work in an atmosphere where I felt positive and productive and that type of thing. So I didn't want to stay there, you know. So I went on a mission to find a job elsewhere.
Okay, and so that was in Bloomington, Illinois. I work with you. I've been working with you. So, what led you to Bloomington in Central Illinois?
Bro, I'm gonna tell you straight up, like it was very random. I just happened to have two friends who lived here already. I will say their names. That's Kelly West, and then Renaud Pete, who's actually a state trooper right now.
Awesome.
And they lived here, and I came out here and slept on their couch for a couple weeks. Before I left, I told my mom, like, all right, I'm gonna go find a job somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I promise it's gonna all work out. And she's like, well, okay, I support that, but if you don't find anything in a couple weeks, you got to come back home, take the job you already got, and get to work.
What's your mother's name? I don't know if a lot of people know that. What's your mother's name?
We just refer to her as Ma Dukes.
Mama Dukes.
Yeah, we don't go by first names.
Okay.
You know where I'm from. It's
All
Mama
right,
Dukes.
so I'm gonna say
No.
Mama Dukes. Anytime I ask you about your mom, I say Mama Dukes.
Yeah,
from now
man.
on,
You know,
okay?
first name around here. I don't even think my mom has a first name.
Okay. And she gave you an ultimatum. So 2 weeks, and you have to figure it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
So
like,
what was that 2 weeks like? I mean,
well,
take us back a little bit.
how it went was she told me, she said, all right, we give you 2 weeks and then you got to come back and do your thing if you don't find anything. So I go to Bloomington, and I legitimately went to all the gyms in this town at that time, and the gym that we work at right now, like that's where I felt the right energy. I go off vibes, I go off how things feel, and it just felt right. So walk into this gym, walk up to the front desk girl, and I straight up tell her, I'm like, hey, I'm Mike Trotter. I got an exercise science degree. I'd like to be a personal trainer here.
I'm gonna be an all-star.
Like in my mind, that's what I was thinking. And she's like, okay, well, the PT director will call you back later on. I get home, no phone call.
Okay.
So what did I do? I showed up the next day. Same front desk girl sitting there. I'm like, hey, my name's Mike Trotter, exercise science degree. I'd like to be a personal trainer here. Again, she said,
What'd you do from there?
She's like, okay, well, yeah, the PT director didn't call you? No, okay, he'll call you today. Boom, go home, no call. So legitimately, this went on for 5 days in a row where I showed up every single day as if I've never met her before.
Okay.
And introduced myself. I'm Mike Trotter.
She had to recognize you by like.
Bro, she knew who I was, man.
She
She
knew
knew
you
me
were.
very
Okay.
well. But what she didn't know is I had my Dukes with this timeline saying,
You had a deadline. to set.
right, and she don't play. Like my mom's like 5
Front
foot
desk girl
five.
didn't know that, though.
She don't understand that. My mom's like 5'5", but I'm talking about she brings the fury. She's like the matriarch of our family. Like whatever she says goes. So that's what's happening back in my mind. Like you don't understand, lady. I got more than time limit, baby.
Sitting there with the wives, like, come on now, okay.
Straight up. So this went on for about 5 days, and legitimately, I didn't think it was gonna happen. I was getting anxious, I was getting nervous, and no call, no text from anybody. And I remember getting into my car at the time. I was driving a 2-door Teal Grand Am, where the windows didn't roll up.
They don't even make those no more.
They don't make them no more.
No.
They shouldn't have made them back then either. They were bad. But my windows didn't roll up, so if it was 16 inches of snow outside, it was 16 inches of snow in my ride. So you just turn the heat up and roll. But I remember packing my car, pissed. Like I'm not even on front. Like I was legitimately in tears. And then I get in, I'm driving off, and my phone rings.
Okay.
And it was the PT director. And he was offering me opportunity to try out for a spot at the gym.
Awesome. And so it sounds like that was a couple of weeks where you were just coming in, and you came in every single day, and you asked if you could have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end, you said, what day was that?
The very last
Very
day.
last day.
Very last
And
day.
you were packing up, and you were getting ready to go back home. Mama Dukes had set that timeline, and it was game over.
Absolutely.
Right? How did that make you feel, getting that initial phone call to give you that opportunity to train at the gym that you had been asking to for a couple of weeks?
Well, like I said, I was in tears packing.
Okay.
And then when I got the call, I was in tears again, but the tears were different. Like it was from tears of sadness to tears of joy. I was just happy to have the opportunity because I knew in my heart, man, like everything I've been through in my life, it comes down to if you give me a chance, I'm going to kill it. You know what I mean? I might not be the best player, I might not be the strongest, but I'm always going to work my ass off.
Where does that come from? I mean, what's the origin of that?
I think it has a lot to do with where I'm from and how I was raised.
So what do you mean by that? I mean that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So
I mean,
what does that mean?
Where I'm from is pretty much without being too dramatic, is kill or be killed. You know what I mean? It's only the strong survive. So it's a lot of if you don't do it for yourself,
Sure.
it doesn't get done.
Absolutely.
So and I saw a lot of people before me not make it out, and I never wanted to be that.
Okay. And where does that come from? I mean, so you could have been just like everybody else and done your thing. So where does that drive come to not be that?
Man, to actually pinpoint it, I really couldn't say. I guess, my uncle was a very big influence in my life, and he was a pastor at our church. And I used to have to go help him set up every weekend. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I couldn't go party. I couldn't hang out with my friends. Like, every weekend I was spending the night at his house, and I was helping him set up church. And he taught me a lot of, lessons about, being a man and, working for yours and going for yours and that type of deal. So I think his influence in my life has a lot to do with my mentality. Okay. But at the same time, like, I was very observant as a kid. Sure. Like, I saw a lot of bad, I saw a lot of negative, but I also knew what I didn't want to be. You know what I mean? Like, we were poor, but I didn't know we were poor. Like, it's funny when you hear, and it's like as a side note, I always get interested when I hear people say, how bad growing up in the hood is. You know what I mean? Because for me, it really wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize it was the hood because, like, that's all I knew.
That's all. Yeah, you didn't know what anything else.
Yeah, so I legitimately thought this is how everybody lives. You know what I'm saying? This is like nobody has green grass.
So
like
everybody's came to Rica.
Yo, when I was like, even prior to that, like when I was going on college visits, like that was so inspiring. It was like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, that was when I first met white people. That was when, like, I realized white people thought that black people were cool. You know what I'm saying? Because all my life it was different. I thought, white people didn't like black people. Like, that was the perception from where I was from. But when I went on college visits, it was definitely the opposite, my friend. So I'm like, hey, I don't know if I can make the GPA, but I need to go there. You know what I'm saying? Awesome. So that's how it started, really.
That's awesome. So let's take it to things in a little bit of a different direction. So, it sounds like you got the job as a trainer. You came in and you got that last second call, and then from there, what happened after that? So you got that last second call. You were packing your bags to go back to Mama Duke's, and now you've got this call to try out for this gym class that we're hosting. They were hosting.
Right. So, in my mind, like, I'm an athlete. So when I hear tryout, I'm like, I'm about to dominate this thing, baby. Sure. Like, it ain't nothing to it, right? So I get there, and I BS you not, it was the hardest 2 weeks of my life, physically, emotionally, and mentally, right?
You were all confused.
Like, these dudes weren't in it. I feel like to this day, they weren't in it to help us get hired. They were in it to make us quit. You know what I mean? So, like, despite everything I had been through as an athlete physically, like, that was the most physically demanding 2 weeks I had ever been through. Okay. And, but I wasn't going to quit. You know what I mean? Like, it was either get this done or you go back to Chicago. You know what I mean? And Chicago wasn't an option for me because, like I said, I go off how things feel, and Chicago just didn't feel right. So, the 2 weeks goes by, and I never forget, man. How back in the day when you did like 8th grade basketball tryouts, and the coach is standing there with a clipboard, and he's calling out everybody who made the team, right? Okay. Right. Can you see this picture in your head? Mm-hmm. So he's calling out everybody who's making the team. Well, where's everybody else who doesn't make the team? Right. The guys who made it are over here.
So where were you?
Well, I'm getting to that. So he's calling the names, Chandra Tangi, Gabriel Osai. I'll never forget. He's doing name for name, right? I'm still good friends with Chandra and Gabe to this day. Gabe is actually a doctor now. But anyway, that's a side note. Okay. So all the names get called. None of the names come with a story, right? No message behind their names, no anything. Just name, boom, you made it. Welcome to the team.
Awesome.
So I'm standing there, and it's me. And then this other person who I won't mention the name, but everybody knew through the class like this person wasn't gonna make it. You know what I mean? Like he just couldn't cut it. So he gets to me, and not only does he call my name, and I get excited, but my name has a story with it. Right? A speech, if you will.
So what was that speech?
So he straight up said, I'll never forget it. He was like, Mike, I'm gonna go ahead and do you a favor and offer you the opportunity to work for us. The truth is that I don't believe that you will make it in this industry very long. Okay. But the reality is that we need warm bodies right now.
Right.
So we're going to do you a favor and give you a shot. Now pause. Do you understand what it means when somebody says we need warm bodies?
I do.
If you're breathing, right? If you have a pulse, you can work with us.
Yeah.
Right? Now, as disrespectful as that was, I'm not even worried about his disrespect at the time. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about the fact that I don't got to go back home.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I shook that man's
You didn't
hand.
care.
Dude.
You didn't have to go. You didn't have to go back home.
I didn't have to go back home. So I shook that man's hand as if he just said, Mike, you're the greatest I've ever seen, and I think you're going to make it.
So he clearly didn't see what was really going on at that time.
Yeah, he didn't think I had what it took, apparently.
Okay. So what happened after that? So you got hired on, and what happened initially after that? I mean, what was the deal from there?
I never forgot what he said.
Okay.
And that is a huge part of why I do what I do to this day. Like, although I didn't react negatively at the time, it still hurt and it was still embarrassing, you know, for him to say that in front of my peers and, you know, colleagues. And I never forgot what he said, you know, so, you know, just what I just said, you know, I wasn't going to make it pretty much. So what I did is I used that as fuel. You know, my goal at the time, it was just to simply be the best personal trainer I could possibly be and prove them wrong. So within the first month of me working there, I was signing people up left and right, you know, because I didn't know much. Even though I had a exercise science degree, I didn't know everything about exercise. Right. But what I did know and understand was treat people right, help them solve problems, you know. And if I could treat you better than anybody else is going to treat you, then you're going to keep coming back.
Okay.
You know, so with that attitude, I ended up legitimately with one of the biggest client lists in the gym within a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was definitely dominating from the personal training side.
So what happened? I mean, so it sounds like you got hired and you killed it right away.
Killed it straight dead.
Okay. How did you become how did you become who you are today now? So we've talked about your past and where you came from a little bit. Now tell me how you got to owning a company as SFT.
Right. So you know, all I wanted to be was the best personal trainer I could possibly be. Like, legitimately, that was my goal. I didn't plan on being a manager. I didn't plan on being an owner. Okay. Like, none of this was in the, like, mentally, I just wanted to dominate from that standpoint, you know? So it just so happened that in my first month, the PT director took another job elsewhere, you know, so they didn't have a PT director. And they were interviewing people who had been there for years before me. So I had already thought, like, okay, they got a replacement already set up. Well, they actually approached me and asked me to take the job. Okay. And I actually turned it down the first time. You know, I actually said no. And then, you know, after a couple conversations, I was convinced to take the job. And that's how it started. So what I did was I noticed the issue in our industry is that it's every man for themselves. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Wild Wild West. It's like, okay, you got a certification, you got a degree, we're going to hire you and put you on the floor and you figure it out. Right? So what happens? Right. Trainers are in it for 3 months, you know what I mean, at the most, and then they end up either quitting or getting fired because they're not producing, right? And then they end up working a desk job that they hate, you know? So trainers weren't not making it just because they weren't passionate or they didn't love what they did. It was just they weren't being taught how to do this thing. Right. So what I did was I pretty much took the principles that I've learned from sports and created, you know, and with the help of my mentor, we put together a playbook, you know, where we taught trainers, you know, how to be trainers step by step, you know, from the time a person walks in to the time that they leave the gym. You know, we help them understand how to treat people. You know, we help them understand how to create an experience that the member couldn't duplicate on their own, you know, and by doing that, what was that called? What is the process called? I mean, I know what it is, but we just call it a 12-step process, 12-step first workout process, you know, and it's just about creating an experience, really. And, you know, the interesting thing about this story, man, is I always tell people this, like, God's plan and your plan sometimes are absolutely different. You know what I mean? Like what you think God's plan is for you, sometimes it ain't even that. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was destined for me to be an athlete, right? I thought it was destined for me to go to the league. I'm like, no, I don't care if I'm at a small school. I don't care if I'm not, on TV. I'm going to the league. Well, what I learned was that God was actually using those lessons that I was learning to prepare me for what his plan really was. And, you know, we could say it's fitness, but fitness is just the platform that he has for me. You know, the reality is that I'm here to help people grow. You know what I mean? And what I did was I was able to learn the team concepts through sports, you know, and apply that to personal training. And that's what we do, man. We help trainers, you know, maximize their talents just by giving them a playbook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it. What would it be like if you were on a football team, you know, as talented as you are at football,
right?
What would it be like if you were on that football team and it was no playbook?
I want to be very good.
It would be chaos. And that's the personal training industry, right? So what we did was we just created a playbook, you know, and let the trainers make it uniquely their own.
Sure.
But now they know what to do. You know, so now what that helped us do is retain trainers longer, because if they're acquiring and retaining clients, there's no reason to do anything else, right? So how it is with the system is, if you don't succeed, it's because you're not doing the work. It's not because you're not talented. You know, it's not because you don't like helping people. It's because you're not doing the work. And, you know, it's a blessing for me every day to be able to help people grow. And it ain't even just from a personal training standpoint. It's we're helping people grow in life. You know, I always tell people, like, yo, if your goal is to be the superstar trainer here, great. But if your goal is to be a superstar somewhere else, and I can help you do that by teaching you the principles and lessons that I know, by all means. You know what I mean?
So where does that come from? I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I know, but it sounds like you are very, very passionate about helping people, right? And that's just something that you've come to love to do. Where does that come from? Like, why is it so important for you to help people? But not only that, I mean, you help trainers as well, and you mentioned that a little bit. Help people, really help people, right? Help trainers understand how to actually do this right way by giving them the playbook that they can use to change people's lives.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I've always been passionate about people. Like, my mom was just telling me this story the other day that I completely forgot about. And she's Mama Dukes. She was telling me, she was like, dude, do you remember when you were in kindergarten and you went back to the preschool that you went to talk to the kids about how kindergarten was going to be?
You did that?
I did that in kindergarten, bro. And I didn't even remember that until she told me. You know what I mean? She's like, you went to your preschool and you stood in front of the class and you told them what to expect in kindergarten. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, like, every, you know, situations like that. And then, you know, like situations like when I was helping my uncle out at church, setting up the chairs at church, you know what I mean? And like now, when I'm setting up for our seminars, which I haven't really talked much about on this podcast, when I'm setting up chairs for the seminars, it's like, damn, like, this was all part of God's plan. You know what I mean? Like, because my uncle was very specific about how you set those chairs up. You know what I mean? Like, he would get pissed, like, no, it's not here, it's here. And now when I'm setting up for the seminars, I'm thinking the same thing. Like, you know, when people are helping, like, no, you've been there. It's like, no, not there, you know? And it's like this plan that you thought, this path that you thought you were on, and why you thought you were on it, it ain't even about you. You know what I mean? It's legitimately about helping other people. And the reality is, what I've learned is that the more I help other people get to where they want to be, what happens naturally is my goals start coming to fruition. You know what I mean? And that's just how the universe works.
And that's actually a perfect transition. One of the last things I want to know is, and I think we've covered, you know, your past to a pretty good extent. Now I want to know what you're trying to do. So I know your story a little bit, so I'm going to tell that from here. I know you ended up owning a personal training company from what you did as a personal training director, right? So what are your goals now? What are you trying to accomplish now that it sounds like you've almost kind of come full circles and realized exactly what your true passion was? Right,
yeah. It's funny because people always say, like, man, you're so lucky, and man, like, you made it, you know what I mean? And I don't feel like that, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's so much more to do, so much more to accomplish. And I want to spread, you know, this message, not just, you know, on a small scale where I'm helping trainers locally. Like, you know, I want to do seminars, and I am doing seminars currently where I'm going around, you know, from state to state, teaching trainers, you know, how to be better trainers. You know, that's a huge part of, you know, my passion right now, because a lot of people it's not that they're they don't want to be good at it. They just don't know how.
Right.
You know, so my goal is to travel around and continue to do that. You know,
awesome.
on a big scale. You know, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
So why is it so important for you to go around and help people like that? I know you say you like to help people and you like to help people, you like to help trainers, but what is it about being able to go expand it from here?
I would be lying if I told you that I don't get any gratification out of seeing the people around me succeed. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I always tell the people around me that I hang with, and of course we got a group that we hang with pretty regularly, and we call them the big fellas, and you familiar with that. And I always tell them, I'm like, you can't, you know, be the king of the world until you're the king of your community first.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So what that means for me is I make sure that I help them as best as I can, you know, the circle that I have that's around me all the time,
right,
help them get to where they want to be the best as I possibly can. You know what I mean? Now that I feel like I've given them everything that, you know, I can for now, you know, and as I learn, of course, I pass on to them. Now, since they're good and they're all going on their paths and doing their thing, now it's time for me to branch out and help everybody else. And, you know, when I get done doing a seminar and people are coming up and saying like, yo, PT Boss, like, that was awesome. Like, and
how does that make you feel?
People are in tears. Like, I was about to quit personal training. Like, I was about to give up. Now, since I heard this, you know, I did Club Industry a couple weeks ago, man, and that was big for me because I remember sitting in the crowd at Club Industry saying like, yo, I want to do that one day, you know. And not only did I do it, I did it the right way. And after, you got people coming up saying like, yo, like this was awesome, in tears, you know. And like I said, I would be lying if I said that didn't make me feel good, you know. So, you know, I definitely love helping people. I definitely love seeing people succeed. But I guess the other side of it is fulfilling for me, you know, knowing that I had a part to play in the success of all these people.
That's awesome. And that sounds like that's pretty important to you, is that ability to help people and know that you've changed people's lives.
Absolutely.
Right? So what do you foresee in the future? So I know you said you wanted to go around and help people all over the country. What's your long-term that you're really trying to accomplish with that?
I want to do this. I want to use the fitness industry as a platform.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I love fitness. I love personal training. I love, you know, helping people. But I feel like we only get a certain amount of time to do whatever it is that we're supposed to do. You know, and for me to sit here and give you a real answer and say like, yo, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make $1 billion doing it. Like, yeah, would that be nice? Absolutely. Do I want to make $1 billion? Damn right I do.
No,
do I think I'm going to make a ton of money doing this? Yeah, I am. I'm going to make a ton of money doing it. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with me wanting to make money doing it either. But the reality is that I think that God has put me in a position to use this as a platform to, you know, reach other people, you know, and that's, at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. And from what it sounds like to me, it sounds like you've been kind of preparing for this. You didn't realize it at the time, but you had been preparing for some sort of opportunity like this your whole life, and that's what you come to the realization from as well, from your childhood, from the kindergarten, where you were standing up in front of the preschoolers, right? And then you said that you went to school, and you went to school at Eureka, and you used those experiences to help you turn what you're doing with the fitness industry, but with the gym and your company, and what you're really that you're trying to turn it into a team atmosphere, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, I don't know if I have any other questions. I feel like that answers pretty much everything that we're trying to accomplish with this Q&A. So, before we get out of here, do you have any last parting, sayings or anything that you would like to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. I always, I always like to leave people with just a real message, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm not the smartest guy you're gonna ever meet. You know what I mean? And when it comes to physical strength, I'm not going to be the strongest. I'm not going to be the best looking. I'm usually the best looking, but sometimes there's one or two in the room that look better. But at the end of the day, man, my story is make a way out of no way.
Right.
If no matter what people tell you, don't quit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, people will tell you you can't do it,
Right.
right? Your girlfriend will break up with you, right?
Yeah,
Your
and
dog.
it sounds like the real reason you do this is somebody told you couldn't do this, and look at you now.
Absolutely, and it's not even look at me now. It's look where I'm gonna be, because this is the beginning. And I always tell people, man, I want you to use me as an example, because I want you to see me and be like, yo, I love that dude. So if he could do it, I could do it.
Right.
Or I hate that dude. He shouldn't be able to do it. But if he could do it,
Right.
I can do it. You know what I mean? So however you got to use me as the motivation, use me, and then make a way out of no way.
That's awesome. And the last question I have for you is and I think we've already answered this question, but I want to hear it one last time, is on the days that you don't want to do this, on the days that are tough, right? And we all have them. Nobody ever wakes up and says, I want to do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But what separates us are the ones that do it on the days that we don't want to do this.
Absolutely.
So what is it that you think about on the days that you don't want to do this that gets you up and gets you to do it anyways?
It's twofold. My family still lives in that situation that I talked about. You know what I mean? Like, and for me, I don't want to call it guilt, but I don't even know how to describe, how to describe the feeling that I feel knowing that they're still there.
Right.
So my goal is to be in a position where I'm able to get them out of that. Mm-hmm. So when I don't feel like doing it, I feel selfish. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a huge motivation for me.
That's awesome.
And then on top of that, it continues to play back in my head that my man told me, I don't think you're going to make it in this industry very long. I don't think you have what it takes. But we're going to hire you because the reality is we need warm bodies.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to show you what this warm body could do.
And then we talked about that, let's go into a little detail on the other side. So you talked about how your family isn't necessarily where you want it to be right now. Mm-hmm. And you're using that, you feel guilty whenever you don't get up and do things you should do, because it sounds like they're relying on you, and you are using yourself as reliance to get them out of that, right?
And it's not really, because my family, I come from a family of hustlers. Like, everybody in my family is go-getters, so it's not that they're relying on me, I'm relying on me for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, they don't ask me for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, everything that I do for them is just straight, from the heart. Mm-hmm. No matter how much they need it, they won't ask for it. You know what I mean? But I know what's up.
Right.
I know.
But you still want to have it. You still want to be able to, go home and be able to take care of them. And
I want to show up like, Ma, pack your bags.
We're getting out of here.
We out.
That's awesome. You get Mama Dukes out of there, right?
Word up.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that being said, I think we should end it with that. So, if anybody has any questions, wants to hit us up. I'm CoachKurt.fit at IG. What's your IG?
If you want to find me on social media, I'm at the PT Boss on Instagram, and I'm Mike Trotter on Facebook. But I respond to most of my Instagrams faster than I do Facebook. So at the PT Boss on Instagram. Holla at me.
Perfect. If you made it through this far through the video, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you got some good things out of this Q&A, and I look forward to a lot more. This is one of probably 5,000, so let's get to it.